And you're given a bag of tools, you're given a book of rules and a shapeless mass. And the question is, what are you doing with your bag of tools? And as we think on that sound note this afternoon, communities are often defined not by the challenges they face, but by how they respond to them. And today we gather with renewed purpose, with the need to build stronger, smarter, and more resilient communities. And for Jamaica, it represents something larger. It's a continued commitment to expanding home ownership, strengthening communities, and ensuring that development reaches every corner of our country. And our next speaker has championed that vision through his leadership. Housing has remained a central pillar of national development, helping thousands of Jamaicans fulfill the dream of owning a home. As communities recover, rebuild, and look confidently to the future, he continues to lead that effort as well with determination and purpose. And as I have heard him say before, to leave Jamaica better than I have found it. I don't think we have to question what he's doing with his bag of tools. But ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming the Prime Minister of Jamaica, the builder, Dr. the Most Honorable Andrew Holness.
I'm sure everyone can see me now. Thank you, Dwayne, for your usual mastery of the ceremony. Let me thank Reverend Father Orlando Gale for your thoughtful prayers. Let me acknowledge Mr. Franklin Witter, the Honorable Minister of State in the Ministry of Agriculture and Member of Parliament for this fortunate constituency. And he is joined by Member of Parliament Andrew Morris from the adjoining constituency to give some support. His Worship the Mayor, Councillor Richard Solomon, the Mayor of Black River, and he is joined by other members of the Municipal Corporation. I see Councillor Simpson and Councillor Holness, who is my cousin. And of course, the National Housing Trust, the team that is always faithfully at these ceremonies. Let me acknowledge your chairman, Mr. Linval Freeman, and your managing director, Mr. Martin Miller, other stakeholders and representatives of the private sector. And let me specially acknowledge the beneficiaries, the persons who will be claiming this land as theirs and building on it. I'm so very much happy for you today. And you would not mind me making special acknowledgement of the Hampton School. I want to commend them on the choice of entertainment of the song. We've been to events like these before, and we have seen cultural items presented. And we clap because we want to encourage our children. We see the effort that they made. But in the back of our minds, we wonder whether or not it was appropriate for the event. It met the standards that we all want to maintain. But this time, I can say genuinely from observation, the audience was satisfied that the selection was appropriate and delivered at the highest standard. I'm pleased to be here in Malvern, St. Elizabeth, for the handover of these service lots by the National Housing Trust. Today we hand over land, but we are also handing over a foundation for families to build, to settle, and to grow on. A service lot is more than a plot of land. It gives a family a legacy to call their own. It gives them roads, drainage, electricity, street lights, and the confidence that their investment is being made on proper ground in a planned community with the basic infrastructure already in place. When a family begins to build here, they are not building into uncertainty. They are building into order. For many Jamaicans, owning a home begins with owning land. It begins with a piece of Jamaica that they can call theirs. A place to build slowly. Some will build quickly. But whatever you do, build carefully. And always build within your means. I'm surveying the audience to see the reactions of those who will be owning land here. Whatever you do, build within your means. This is how wealth is built in real life. One lot, one title, one foundation, one family at a time. The Malvern subdivision is located about 15 kilometers southwest of Santa Cruz. It was originally developed by the Jamaica Teachers Association, and I see some representatives of the JTA here. I have a very long and strong relationship with the JTA. They are my good friends. So this was originally developed by the Jamaica Teachers Association Housing Cooperative Limited and comprised at the time 108 residential lots. After the National Housing Trust assessed the infrastructure, it found that more work was needed to make the development suitable. The trust then assumed responsibility for completing the infrastructure works along with the 30 residential lots that remained available at the time. After further assessment, the NHD reduced the number of serviceable lots from 30 to 27 because 3 lots had serious flooding concerns. Now, that was a responsible decision. Sometimes we see developments where the developers are well aware that there are concerns with the lots and they still sell them. But you will not have that happen with the NHD because the NHD is a responsible developer. And in any event, it will come back to cost them because the NHD can't run. The NHD is always there. So they have to make wise decisions. And so whilst there would be significant reason to make the 3 lots available, once we make a proper assessment that these lots will not serve the people who buy them, we're not going to put them up for sale. And so I want to commend the NHD for that. We cannot build housing policy on wishful thinking. We must build on sound assessment, proper engineering, and respect for risk. If land is likely to flood, we must say so. If a lot is unsuitable, we must accept that evidence. Families should never be encouraged to put their life savings into a place that may later be exposed to loss, damage, or distress. So today's handover is also a statement about standards. The works completed here include paved roadways with curbs, street names and traffic signs, stormwater drainage systems, electrical distribution infrastructure, and streetlights. Martin, there's no pool, no gym, jogging trail. We'll have to talk about that with the new homeowners. Obviously, these days, the recreation areas and jogging trails are becoming almost standard features for housing developments. Now, the development cost just over $100 million. And that investment is visible on the ground beneath our feet. I want to recognize the project team, which would include the Rural Water Supply Limited, which provided pre-contract civil engineering support, Donovan Simpson Associates Limited, they were the land surveyors, the NHD project management team, the NHD engineering and contract monitoring department, and the contractors who brought this development to completion. The public sees the ceremony, but the team lived through the long road that made this possible. The surveys, the approvals, the procurement, the supervision, the corrective decisions, and the follow-through. That work deserves acknowledgement. Now, to the selected beneficiaries, I offer my congratulations. Of the 27 service lots, one was reserved for special groups under the NHD Special Benefits Order, and 26 eligible contributors were selected. Almost 70% of those selected are women. Women in Jamaica frequently carry the daily weight of holding families together, planning for children, managing household costs, sustaining long-term goals, even when resources are stretched. Housing gives that discipline somewhere to land. It converts quiet, consistent effort into lasting assets. It is fitting that this scheme reflects that reality in its beneficiary profile. Now, the income profile of the beneficiaries also tell an important story. Five selectees qualified at 0%. And this is a point that I need to emphasize. That the benefit of the NHD comes, yes, from its undertaking to develop land. It comes from the provision of a mortgage. But the more long-lasting effect is it allows persons who qualify to access a mortgage at 0%. That's a huge subsidy. So 5 persons of the 26 will have a mortgage 0%. 5 qualified at 2%, and 12 qualified at 4%, and 4 qualified at 5%. So the benefit of the NHD, it's huge when you compare it to commercial mortgage rates. Now, that means that the majority of beneficiaries are receiving support at rates designed to keep the cost of ownership within reach. And that is what the NHD was created to do. It must serve contributors, it must help working Jamaicans move from rent to ownership, from uncertainty to stability, from aspiration to possession. And it must keep doing that, especially in rural Jamaica, in towns, in farming communities, in growing centers, and in places like beautifully cool Malvern. Most of the selectees are between 41 and 60 years old. I'm looking at the selectees and I couldn't tell. They all look very young. Some may have wondered if this day would ever come. Some have waited their entire life for this day. But today, your dreams are coming true. Important to note that 4 of the new landowners are between 19 and 35. Yes. And the beneficiaries, the occupants now, represent Jamaica. They represent in terms of the livelihoods and professions. They are accounting, administration, clerical workers, teaching obviously, security, health, safety, housekeeping, childcare, and other forms of service. These are people who work, who contribute, and who are now getting their chance to own a piece of Jamaica. St. Elizabeth has long had a strong relationship with the National Housing Trust. Since its inception, the Trust has delivered approximately 1,019 housing solutions in this parish across communities such as Elim, Lower Works, Rahim, Santa Cruz, Newmarket, Glencoe, Bellevue, Phoenix Park, Gazeland, Meadows, Appleton, Leeds, Balaclava Heights, and Brampton Manor. And that record will grow. The NHT's current housing plan for St. Elizabeth includes 6 projects, including Malvern, to be completed by 2031. Together, they are expected to bring approximately 1,993 housing solutions to the parish. And these include Friendship Oaks 1 with 256 service lots, Friendship Oaks 2 with 248 one-bedroom units, 59 two-bedroom units, and 443 service lots. The Holland Estate with 540 solutions, Luana with 360, and Kensington with 60. So this handover is part of a larger program of delivery in St. Elizabeth. Now, housing policy must do more than count units. It must create communities that last. It must support families who want to build steadily. It must give rural parishes a fair share of national investment, and it must connect housing with roads, drainage, water, electricity, safety, and access to services. The NHD has also been upgrading housing schemes. Under this scheme upgrade program, 109 housing schemes have been identified across the country, and 60 have been rehabilitated so far. In St. Elizabeth, 3 housing schemes have reached practical completion with expenditure of 83 million Jamaican dollars. Louisville in Newmarket received road rehabilitation works. Lower Works and Jerusalem also received road rehabilitation and general rehabilitation works, particularly to their drains. This work matters because communities must never be left to decay after the keys have been handed over. Government must assist in the maintenance, but the citizens, the residents, you who will become new homeowners, sometimes the perspective is, I've paid so much for the house, or the land, and once it's finished, that's the end of any expenditure on the house. Nothing lasts forever. Concrete deteriorates as well. The paint will fade and strip. You have to constantly maintain your house in order for it to keep value. I say this again to those of you who will be homeowners here. Your plan must include maintenance of the structure that you build. As I was driving in, I was very impressed by the community. It's clear that in its heyday, this was one of the top tier areas to live in. You could see the plan for the area, not to mention the lovely vista that you have of the sea, of the plain, and how cool it is. But clearly, over time, the verges have been left unkept. The fences have fallen down. Persons have neglected to maintain their front yards. Trees have been allowed to grow and get out of control. And I did pass a garbage collection truck on my way up. It passed me going down. So councillors, there seems to be a service here. I know I'm going to immediately be corrected that it is not adequate, it doesn't come on time, it doesn't come frequently. I will accept and appreciate that, but there is a service here, obviously. But it is clear that the level of maintenance of the community space, residents controlling their own waste and managing how it is disposed, it's not sufficient to move the garbage from your kitchen and throw it on the roadside with no care of whether or not dogs or other animals will come and disturb this garbage and have it strewn and spread all over the place. And then you come out and you drive past it and say, this is not my problem. This is the NSWMA problem or the parish council problem to come and pick it up. That mentality must end in Jamaica. I was expecting a clap of acknowledgement, but I understand. I know, and I will never contest, we don't have enough trucks to collect the garbage. We don't collect it as frequently as we should. No one disputes that. We're working towards that. 5 years ago, we had 60 trucks. We made an investment to purchase over 100 new trucks, and we're coming again with another amount. So over time, we build it up. But does that mean that when you throw your garbage out, that's the end of your responsibility? Have our values as a society deteriorated so that we have become immune to a sense that when we see garbage strewn all around, it has an impact, a negative impact on us to motivate us to the point that we do something about it, or we just leave it there. And that is the concern that, as your Prime Minister, I have when we speak about the deterioration and degeneration of our values. Cleanliness and good public sanitation, it's not just a matter for the government, it is a matter for each citizen. And as I drove up, and not just in these communities, all across Jamaica, we see waste all over. It didn't just materialize. Somebody threw it there, or someone was careless in how they disposed of it. As you build your community, you should, because this is now a new community with a new culture that can be rooted from the start. You must make a pact to ensure that your community is clean, that the road leading up to your community is clean. Your action, citizens' action, the civic action is good and powerful. So instead of saying, why don't you come and collect my garbage? We know we are working on that. But let us properly containerize and properly dispose of our garbage. We're going to be building many lovely houses here. But the beauty of the house, it is not just at your front door and inside. It's not just the lovely tiles and bathroom fittings and chandeliers that you will have. It's how the road looks coming into your property. How your verge looks, how your sidewalk looks. And so as we celebrate home ownership here today, let us all commit to a new civic standard of personal responsibility in keeping our space clean. And this new community can have that culture rooted. And so I appeal to you, I implore you to consider that as you look towards your new home. Let me thank you for your attention. So far, I have another hour to go. There is a lot of talk about the NHD and the NHD being deprived of resources by virtue of the government extending legislation to have fiscal support for the budget from the NHD. And I will repeat the point that I have made over and over again. The government does not take the funds from the NHD lightly. We understand what the resources are dedicated for. And were it not a situation that required it, the government would not have done it. And it is worth noting that the opposition did it and said the same thing, that the situation required it. And the situation does require it. However, we must be clear that the funds that have been taken from the NHD have not impaired the NHD in its ability to respond and to deliver benefits for the citizens. And I want to make that absolutely clear. During Hurricane Melissa, the recovery process from Hurricane Melissa, the NHD has already processed and distributed over 5,078 home grants. That's about 1.974 billion Jamaican dollars. Each grant about 500,000 Jamaican dollars. One of the things I find very amusing as a politician is that if you could give 95 persons something, they could get a grant or get access to something, the 95 will say nothing, but the 5 who didn't get will be louder than the 95 who got. And so the impression would always be given that nothing was done. I'm sure you have not seen one homeowner who has got the grant come out and say, I have got the grant. You're not going to hear that. But I'm certain that you have heard people say they have got the grant. The latest one that I have seen is someone saying, yes, I got the grant. But by the time they take GCT out of it and have to pay transportation, I guess it is what it is. So it should be in the public domain that not just what the government has spent, which is almost over $60 billion already. The NHD has spent almost $2 billion on grants. The NHD gave 6 months moratorium on mortgage for 36,000 mortgages in the affected areas. That's huge. So they didn't have to pay a mortgage for 6 months. And I was just told that the NHD has waived the peril insurance premium that would be attached to the mortgage for the period of the 6 months. That's huge again. But you're not going to hear that. Nobody's going to make a TikTok video saying, thank you NHD or thank you government of Jamaica. You won't hear that. So that is why we have to have these ceremonies to put the information in the public domain so the public discourse can be balanced. The NHD provided 213 special loans to persons who wanted to change their zinc roofs to slab roofs, and that was in the amount of 669 million Jamaican dollars. Significant. The NHD has processed so far 3,835 insurance claims, totaling 7 billion Jamaican dollars in claims. Of course, there is, what was it called, Martin? You're not going to be paying out $7 billion, obviously, because there is a, what's the term used? A deductible, right? There is a deductible, excess. That's the term I'm searching for, right? So even though the claim is for $7 billion, there is a part of it that the insured will have to stand. And so you may end up paying somewhere maybe about $6 billion or so in that region. So I want to just repeat that. The NHD has processed to date 3,835 insurance claims. That is valued at about 7 billion Jamaican dollars. Now, the NHD has paid out of that claim 2.85 billion Jamaican dollars. That is what it has paid out. Now, they don't make the payment all at once. The payment is staged. So effectively, they have paid out almost half of the insurance claims. And I think this is a point that we should pause at, because the NHD is a very good example of an entity acting swiftly. Insurance claims aren't processed that quickly, but the NHD has done a very good job, and I want to point that out to the country and to challenge the private insurers for which claims have been made on them, and for which I have had many letters and people writing to me to say, you know, my insurers, they have come, they have assessed, but I can't hear anything. Nothing has been paid to me yet. I'm still in the negotiation. I believe that they should pay you very quickly. Paying up the insurance coverage, paying up the insurance is critical to the national recovery. So I want to commend the NHD for being quick in making the insurance payments, and I want to challenge the private insurers to speed up the payments on the claims. That is an important part of the recovery from Hurricane Melissa. Another contribution of the NHD to the recovery is that the NHD has spent over $29 million to purchase 2,500 semi-permanent modular housing solutions. Yes? 1,200 of these housing solutions are already on the island. 300 will be here by Friday, and the remaining 1,000 we expect to be here by July. These units will form the basis of the government's response for persons who must be relocated from areas that have been significantly damaged, or for persons who have lost everything and are not able to rebuild. The NHD has identified 5 clusters, 5 areas in which these units will be deployed, and units that have to be deployed randomly across the island. Those will be done through the Ministry of Economic Growth and Infrastructure Development. The NHD is also making a contribution to the building of the bases on which these semi-permanent modular housing solutions will be put. And I want to state it here. There was some concern that the government of Jamaica did not spend $1.4 billion that was gifted to it. Now, any accountant, anyone who understands finance, will immediately look at that and say, funds are fungible. So that shouldn't be an issue in the public domain, but we make an issue of it. So the government may not have used that $1.4 billion, but it spent almost $67 billion on all the things that people needed. We took a decision that the resources that were contributed would be matched with needs that are tangible, visible, traceable, and meaningful, lasting. We make no excuse for that. And that is what distinguishes my administration from administrations of the past. We make wise financial decisions. Any donor who has contributed to the hurricane relief in Jamaica would be proud to see these homes being erected and the bases being pointed to. It's quite different from saying, well, all of it was used to buy food or given as a grant, where nobody's going to come up front and say, I got it. There is no testimonial. The house that is erected, it is there, it is visible. And it is very important that we do it because there are persons who are vested in trying to paint the administration as in some way that the resources that were donated would not be used. Well, there you have it. The resources are accounted for. The resources are there, and you will see what the resources were used for. So I thought I would use this opportunity to point that out. These 2,500 units will be deployed heavily, most of it, I think, based upon the needs. A large part of it will be deployed right here in St. Elizabeth. Your brothers and sisters who are on the coast in Parity, an area that was badly damaged, which I toured, which is quite clear that the cost of reconstruction there would be quite higher than the houses that you're trying to save. So we have already indicated to the people of Parity that that area has to be relocated. And we will do it in such a way that their livelihood will be preserved, the value of their asset will be preserved, but most importantly, their dignity will be preserved. So it's not going to be an overnight process. It will be a process that involves them at every step. They can be assured of what we are doing. And so the NHD, the UDC, the municipal authority, all of them will be working together. And in this relocation, NARA will play a critical coordinating role in ensuring that everybody is working on the same script and everybody is working quickly to ensure that the people who have been dislocated will get the benefits. Some of these housing units will also go to the shelter in providing housing solutions for those persons who were in the shelter in Westmoreland, in Petersfield. And so again, the NHD ought to be given some credit for supporting that relief effort of those citizens who were in the shelter for this very long time. Bases have already started to be constructed, and the houses will be deployed there. The NHT has also identified some clusters in Westmoreland as well. I believe 2 clusters that you will be building houses using this semi-permanent solution. Finally, the introduction of these housing solutions into Jamaica is going to be carefully studied. We want to see whether or not these solutions can be deployed widely and a financing mechanism can be used for them. You know, I have an inner city constituency, and I well understand the need for housing. There might be a family of 7. The son grows up, becomes an adult, and he wants his own room. He goes and he buys a couple sheets of ply, some 2x4 and some zinc, and he finds a little place, and as we say, he catch up. And that becomes his home. But multiply this all across Jamaica, and then you begin to see what Jamaica looks like. It's not aesthetically pleasing, it's not secure, it's not resilient, and you can't really claim to have an asset. But more than that, it can't be financed. You couldn't go to a bank and say, lend me on this. But if we were to find a building solution that is within the price point of persons who can't afford some of these other structures, and a financing plan could be put beside it, then we could start to change how Jamaica looks as people begin to seek housing solutions. So we're going to be studying it very carefully. There are some issues. People have said that when these have been deployed, you know, it creates trailer parks and all kinds of things. But there are other models where they have worked, and we can ensure here that it works. So we will be carrying out not just engineering and architectural studies on it, but we are going to look at the sociology of it. How are people's lives change, how are people's behaviors change by having access to these kinds of housing? So we're going to study it and then see if it can be rapidly deployed. Ladies and gentlemen, you have been such a wonderful audience. Thank you for listening to the NHT lecture.
Thank you very much, Prime Minister Dr. Holness. Thank you for the sobering parts of your presentation, reminding us that as homeowners, we have a responsibility to maintain values. One of those being, of course, how we maintain not just our structures, but our broader environment. And the reminder, of course, that the work of the National Housing Trust cannot be measured simply in how many houses are built, how many mortgages are written, or how many lots, as we're doing today, are handed over. But the work of the NHT falls in a broader context of ensuring that the environment in which housing takes place is a great one where people can find various types of opportunities based off their need. Over 5,000 grants post-Hurricane Melissa, and I should point out those grants were not just NHT beneficiaries. We widened the pool of who could benefit it. Homeowners generally, past contributors, a wide cross-section of people. The NHT opened up the opportunity to, because the need was far greater than us maintaining, you know, looking at who is a contributor or not. Over 36,000 mortgages benefiting from moratoria. And the great news, the update, they won't have to repay those 6-month mortgage break that they got, and over $2.85 billion in insurance claims already paid out. That, ladies and gentlemen, is your NHT contributions at work. I may be biased, but please, a round of applause for the NHT, and a round of applause for our Portfolio Minister, Dr. the Most Honorable Andrew Holness, for his salient points in his lecture, as he has termed it, this afternoon. And now we're at the moment 26 people have been waiting for. For some, this represents years of saving. For others, years of hoping and planning. But as our Prime Minister said this afternoon, this is not just an opportunity at getting land. but a foundation upon which you can build dreams, hopes, and a future. So let us now proceed to the official handing over ceremony. And firstly, let me invite Prime Minister Dr. the Most Honorable Andrew Holness to lead the handover of our letters of possession. And our first beneficiary this afternoon is Miss Fiona Wright. And we'll do this first one on the lower level to facilitate Miss Wright. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is a reminder that there are no limits to your opportunities and where housing is concerned. Miss Wright, our first beneficiary, being given her letter of possession this afternoon. And we spoke earlier about bag of tools and your own mass. So your bag of tools is your letter of possession this afternoon, beneficiaries, that you can use to start building your homes and building also your dreams and your future. A round of applause for Miss Fiona Wright, our first beneficiary this afternoon. And we continue the handover. And I know our photographers would love for you to come up a little higher, Dr. Holness. So let me invite you up. And let me invite as well Bernice Bennett. And you can exit behind me, Miss Bennett. Thank you so very much. Let's also welcome Mrs. Kaveen Besesa Headlam. Our next beneficiary, Mr. Dylan Brown. Let's also welcome Monica Brown. Bridget Campbell. Let's also welcome Mrs. Eugenia Collins. Let's give some applause for our next beneficiary, Kay Davis. Heather Grindley. Joseph Hall. Okay, we hear you. It's clear Mr. Hall brought his own cheering squad from Hampton School. Neru James. Mr. Steve Jones. And to round out this batch of beneficiaries, let me invite Mr. Janoy Main. Thank you very much, Dr. Holness. And let me invite at this time Member of Parliament and Minister, the Honorable Franklin Witter, to assist us with the next set of handovers of letters of possession to our new lot owners here at the Malvern Housing Development. And we begin that batch with Melissa Morrison. Sean Mitchell. And these two comers appear. Janelle and Roland Hoylett. Chaplain Reed. And we round out this batch of beneficiaries with Michelle Smith. Thank you very much, Minister Witter. And let me now invite NHT Chairman, Mr. Linval Freeman, to hand out the last set of letters of possession to our new lot owners here at Malvern. And we begin this batch with Vivette Smith. Never heard this name before. It's a beautiful one. Cintrina Stone. Our next beneficiary is Jason Tyson. Let's also make welcome Paulette White. And we round out with Audrey Yap and Josephine Millwood. Thank you very much, Chairman Freeman. And ladies and gentlemen, one big healthy round of applause for all our lot owners here at Malvern. And our lot owners, before you drift off, we'll gather for a photo op as soon as we've ended this ceremony. You can meet us right here at the front of the stage. And today we have heard from our leaders, we've celebrated the development, but perhaps no voice more important today than that of the people whose lives will be changed. To offer remarks and a vote of thanks on behalf of the beneficiaries, please make welcome Mr. Steve Jones.
Okay, Mr. Master of Ceremonies, allow me to adopt the protocols already established. However, I must recognize the most honorable Prime Minister, the most honorable Dr. Andrew Holness, Member of Parliament, Southeastern St. Elizabeth, and Minister of State in the Ministry of Agriculture and Fisheries, Mr. Franklin Witter, the Chairman of the National Housing Trust, Mr. Linval Freeman, councillors, other members of government, distinguished guests, members of the audience, good afternoon. On behalf of all the beneficiaries, or should I say my new neighbors who have received service lots today, I stand with gratitude to offer thanks. To our Honorable Prime Minister, Dr. Andrew Holness, thank you for your leadership and commitment to making home ownership a reality for ordinary Jamaicans. Your government's vision of housing as a right and not as a privilege gives us hope. By supporting the National Housing Trust in this initiative, you have helped in turning the dream of land ownership into reality for most Jamaicans. To the Chairman of the Board of Directors and Management of the National Housing Trust, we thank you for your hard work and service, from processing applications to preparing these lots. Your team made it all possible. We are aware that infrastructural work of this nature takes meticulous planning and coordination. Thank you for your patience, professionalism, and dedication to your contributors. To the staff of the branch offices who guided us through the process, thank you for answering questions, easing concerns, and treating us with respect. Also, I must commend you and highlight the speed at which the applications were processed. Today's handing over ceremony actually marks a 7-month window from date of advertising these lots to the actual handing over. Excellent job. To Reverend Gale, thank you for reminding us to have the Heavenly Father with us as we seek to continue on this journey. In my former years, my sister school, Young Hamptonians, we thank you for those melodious voice and excellent music. Receiving these service lots means more than land. It means security of our families, a foundation to build on, and a step towards generational wealth. We do not take this lightly, and it is our pledge to use this opportunity wisely to honor the trust placed in us as we strive to develop a model community here in Malvern based on love and harmony. So, our Honorable Prime Minister and the National Housing Trust, we thank you for investing in the people. Thank you for building communities. Thank you for helping us to build our future. May God continue to guide the work of the NHT and the government as you serve this nation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jones. Our beneficiaries, they are indeed laying the foundation for homes, for families, and that will last for generations yet to come. This time, we will be just about wrapping up our exercise this afternoon. We now invite our distinguished guests to participate in the official ribbon cutting ceremony that will take place to my right. Ladies and gentlemen, you can remain seated and view it. And that will symbolize the opening of the Malvern housing development and the beginning of the new chapter for these residents. And participating in that exercise, I'll invite Prime Minister Dr. Holness, Minister Witter, Chairman Freeman, Managing Director Mr. Miller, and the ribbon will be cut alongside Ms. Bernice Bennett, one of the new lot owners here. And following the ribbon cutting, there will be a tree planting exercise with Dr. Holness and Mrs. Kaveen Bisesa Headlam. So as we close out our function this afternoon, to our beneficiaries, congratulations. May the homes you build here be filled with love, security, prosperity, and of course, some very precious and cherished memories. To our Prime Minister, distinguished guests, our stakeholders, community members, and partners, thank you for joining us on this occasion. Safe travels, and may God continue to bless Malvern, St. Elizabeth, and Jamaica, land we love. Our ushers, I'll ask you please to direct our ribbon cutting team to the area. Thank you very much, and have a great rest of afternoon.
It's a golden jubilee.
MHD celebrating 50.
From foundation to rooftop high. 50 years as the cornerstone of the nation.
Brick by brick, side by side.